Hey everyone, welcome to a live edition of the Bolt Crew podcast. Dave Pele, Mario Heron, Josh Pele went in a different order that time, but that's the way it goes. Just so you know, it's going to be a shorter podcast, some things that we want to touch on. Again, you can sit there and you can comment right there, and we're going to get to the comments the best we can. As I mentioned, it's a shorter show. Some things that we want to touch on, though, Charger news. Before we get things started, I want to remind you, subscribe if you haven't done that already. And at the same time, push that like button, that thumbs up. Of course, we need that as well. But we're looking at the comments the entire show. Guys, want to start out with something that actually came up in the last show. And the last show was that the Chargers are going to make a move, possibly getting Bud Dupree. And we kind of made a couple jokes, at least I did, about it. Not sure it was going to happen. You hear the rumors. What's your initial reaction when you hear that veteran Bud Dupree is coming to the Chargers to help that defense?
I like it. Bud Dupree is known as a stand-up guy, a veteran presence, something the Chargers could use. I think every team could use a guy like Bud Dupree that is a professional, right? A guy that shows up to work every day. He's part of some great Steeler defenses, and he knows what it means to be a reliable player. I know that because of the Tennessee Titans. I live in Nashville, Tennessee, and people in the city here love Bud Dupree. He wasn't a big-time producer for the Titans, but he was a guy that fans enjoyed having on their team, and his teammates loved him.
I'm all for it, man. It adds more depth to that defense that we absolutely need. He's probably going to be like that, fourth defensive lineman, edge rusher, taking that spot of Chris Rumph. So that's obviously it sucks for Chris, but at the same time, you said it, man. Every city, every team this guy goes to, he gets it embedded into the culture. He's a big signing for everyone. He comes in, and when you need him to perform, he performs. And, let's be honest here, Dave, we have guys that get hurt, that get banged up pretty quick. We're going to need Bud to have a couple games. He's going to need to step up for Mac or step up for Bosa. I feel pretty good that he can do that.
No, I'm happy he's here as well. And this kind of goes back to my criticism of Bosa all the time, right? Pulling yourself out in key situations or not being able to play, as you mentioned, injuries. You bring in a veteran in. Again, he's been in the league since 2015. Okay, so he started off with the Steelers. From 2015 to 2020, he was with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then at the same time, then he was with the Tennessee Titans for a couple years, 2021, 2022. He was with the Atlanta Falcons last year, 6.5 sacks. He has a combined 53 sacks, 70 tackles for loss in his career. All that sounds good. Here's my reason why I'm really excited about this, because we talk about lack of depth. I mean, when we were talking about lack of depth. How about lack of starters? But you bring a guy in that's a veteran presence, a guy that came from a big-time organization in the Pittsburgh Steelers, organization that's known for toughness and defense in the Titans. And then whatever happened in Atlanta, we kind of just throw that away. Even though he produced in Atlanta, I don't think anybody paid attention to the Atlanta Falcons football. They're one of the biggest train wrecks in the league. The fact that they're able to get him here and they handpicked him, fantastic. So when Joey has the hand up and go, I'm gassed, get me out. Guess what? We got Bud coming in. And you feel a little bit better, right? You aren't going to feel like the guy's going to have 5.5 seconds to convert this third down. You got a guy that is known for putting pressure on the quarterback along with Khalil Mack. So I'm excited by the move. I think it's a good signing. I think the Chargers did a pretty good job right here. In a situation, as we said, you look at this team, they're building between the hash marks. And this is another area where on the offensive side, we've seen what they've done, building between the hash marks and their line. This will help the cornerbacks, the safeties, everything else, as far as you can continue to put pressure on the quarterback. And so I think it's a fantastic signing.
Yeah, Mario mentioned Chris Rumph, right? Chris Rumph is going into his fourth season. He is the what could have been guy. He's going to be a guy this is make or break season for the Chargers, frankly. He's drafted in 2021. Chris Rumph in 37 games has 3 sacks. And you're going to say, well, he's a backup. I mean, how many sacks do you want this guy to get? Well, let's think about it. How many games does Joey Bosa miss? Right? I mean, the guy has all the opportunities in the world as a backup to produce, and he just hasn't done it. With the Chargers adding in Bud Dupree, to me, it says, we don't trust Chris Rumph as a guy that can transition in, and you're not going to lose a step. Because honestly, when Tuli's not in, or Khalil's not in, or Joey's not in, you need Chris Rumph to step in. It has been a big step down.
Yeah, it most certainly has. And I think Bud too, like he comes in with a guy that, we've said it multiple times, but I'll say it again, like he comes with experience. And I think they really freaking need that. Like it's one thing to have a guy that's kind of a younger guy that's still a little unproven. You remember Chris Rumph, by the way, all American preseason guy. He had like a hell of a preseason last year. So look, I think with this team especially, you need veteran depth, and we always complain that this team's very top heavy. This is kind of disproving that right here with this move. So hopefully they add some more with that in corner, Dave, and we can get a little bit more deeper on that defensive side because we know we're gonna need it, man. And maybe I'm not out that Bosa's healthier this year, but I am out that Mac will give us the production he gave us last year and play all the snaps in all the games that he did last year.
I tell you what, Khalil Mack. First of all, Chris Rumph, no one's going to miss him. All right, we'll wrap that up with him. No one's going to miss him. Don't want to take a shot at a guy on his way out the door. Let's be honest. He's the guy that's hosting a summer camp at his old high school this summer, giving away T-shirts and shorts and throwing that little football around and telling guys how to move. I mean, that's what he's doing, right? I mean, he's that guy that's going to be, hey, remember him? He played in the NFL. Dude, 3 sacks in how many, what do you say, 39 games? 35 games. Christ's sakes, man. I think I could fall on a quarterback 3 times in 35 games. I mean, that's insane. That's just
37 games.
Okay, whatever. Maybe I get 3.5 in 37 games. But I mean, what are we doing here? I mean, that's embarrassing, right? Sometimes guys just aren't built for the NFL, and he has proven he got an opportunity. He wasn't ready for the NFL. Great football name, just didn't work out for him. So good.
Yeah,
Bud Dupree, let me give you a big hug, man. We're happy to have you. And Khalil Mack, by the way, 17 sacks. He's not going to get 17 sacks next year. It doesn't make any sense. He's going to get 17 sacks. But the deal with Khalil Mack, he doesn't pull himself out of games the way Joey does. And Joey has to play for a big contract again. And Joey has to prove why he deserves to be on an NFL roster making that kind of money. Joey has a lot to prove this year. Otherwise, it's easy to say, there's the door. See you later.
Yeah. Before we move on to AJ Smith, I have a question for Mario. I'm going to throw out some names out there for some cornerback free agents. Okay. Obviously, to me, I mean, I think most fans agree. Cornerback is a huge hole with this team right now. You really have Asante Samuel Jr., and then you have a couple backups. So I'm going to throw out a few names. You say yes or no, both you guys, okay? Xavier Howard.
Yes.
I say yes.
What do you say, Dave?
Yeah. I say yes.
Adoree Jackson.
Yeah.
No.
Dave hates Adoree Jackson.
Yeah, dude, a huge disappointment. I mean, I was a huge fan coming out of USC. Huge disappointment. First round pick by the Titans. Absolutely terrible.
Stephon Gilmore.
Actually, yes. I'm all in on him. For rental, yeah.
I'll go with Mario on this because I didn't see him. Mario was in the same city as him. So, I mean, I watched him on TV and everything. And do I think maybe he's lost a step from when he was Defensive Player of the Year? Of course. But for you to say, Mario, that you're going to sign off on him, then I'm signing off on him.
Patrick Peterson.
Dude, father time wins again. Dude, I'm sorry.
I was about to say, he's pretty old. I think
speaking of father time, Xavier Howard fathered like 4 children last year. J.C. Jackson.
No. God, no. Hell no.
All right, one more. Eli Apple, most hated player in the NFL.
Okay. Hear me out.
Let's hear it.
For the attitude, for the up yours, for blew in a couple moments, but for like a spark off the bench that maybe in like a big Raider game that we need, like that attitude of coming on like F everyone, I'm kind of in on him. I love a guy like that, by the way. Like that's just
I'm in on him too. You tell me he couldn't be a number 2 for the team we have now? Of course he can.
Dude, he's bat-esque crazy, and so is his mom.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it is nuts. Like he is Pac-Man Jones crazy. Like he's a loon. And his mom is crazier. Like you don't blame him for being crazy because he grew up in that house. But man, remember when he first came in the league, how everyone was like, oh, this is our guy. Like, remember all the TV networks, like, this is the guy. His mom's the person that we're going to put on camera and all this. Everything backfired. I mean, he was a firecracker that went off, then was like, enough. And he's a big pain in the ass. And at the same time, you could go, look at this guy. Is he a guy that's an NFL player you want on your team? Again, I will sign off on this if Jim Harbaugh signs off on this. I'm not going to sit there and trash it if they sign him. But if Jim goes, this guy's not good for the locker room and good for what we're trying to do, I 100% understand. And I used to love Patrick Peterson, by the way, but good God. Like some guys can't wait to get to the NFL. This guy will never leave, right? He's a guy who keeps showing up. Where's my jersey? Where's my locker?
Yeah, I'm out on Patrick Peterson, but I would take most of the guys that I reeled off. Obviously, J.C. Jackson was a joke. I'd never want J.C. Jackson on the team. So the next thing I want to bring up is somebody that Dave actually, knew somewhat. AJ Smith. He died this past weekend, 75 years old, the winningest GM in Chargers history. Dave, is he the greatest GM in Chargers history?
He is. He is. I mean, here's the deal. A lot of people right now might fight me on this and go, Bobby Beathard's the guy. Look, I loved Bobby Beathard as a person. I started covering the team when Bobby Beathard was there and Billy Devaney was his right-hand guy, and Billy's a great guy. But when Bobby Beathard had success building the great Miami Dolphins teams and then the Washington Redskins teams, and they were called the Redskins at the time, so I'll call them by that name. And then, of course, he comes to the Chargers. But when he built those two franchises that won Super Bowls, he built those teams before there was a salary cap. And it was easier to get guys. At the same time, Bobby Beathard signed one of the greatest players of all time that people weren't aware of because he played at a small school, and that was Darrell Green. Darrell Green became a Hall of Famer. You guys are too young, but guys from my age will remember Monday Night Football opening weekend. It's the Cowboys playing in Washington, D.C., and Tony Dorsett, one of the best running backs, has a breakaway touchdown run. And this kid, number 28, comes out of nowhere and tracks him down and tackles him from behind. And it was like, what the hell just happened? Who is that kid, and how did he get Tony Dorsett, a Heisman Trophy winner, and brings him down? And then they used to do a competition, which you guys would love now, but they used to put it on TV. It was the fastest man in the NFL contest. And they would do it during the summer, and then these guys would always show. And Darrell Green won every year as the fastest guy in the league. Anyway, plays forever. I think Darrell Green played till he was about 40 and was a Hall of Famer. It was outstanding. Bobby Beathard discovered him. Well, nowadays, because there's so much access to not just film, but every game in college football is on TV, and you have scouts everywhere, it's hard to find that diamond, and Bobby Beathard was great at it. He bragged about it and tried to seem like he was always chasing the next Darrell Green. So it hurt, I think, the Chargers a lot in drafts, that I think Bobby Beathard couldn't adapt to, one, to the salary cap, and couldn't adapt to the fact that everyone else was watching the same players he's been watching. He couldn't find the next Darrell Green. So AJ Smith becomes the guy. So just a little bit of history for you. John Butler was the GM of this team. Do you know who John Butler is, Mario? When you were like 2 years old. John Butler.
Sadly, no. At 2 years old, I wasn't locked in yet.
Yes. John Butler was a mean SOB, big dude, way overweight, wasn't a nice guy, but comes over from the Buffalo Bills after the Bills won, a huge mistake, went to 4 Super Bowls and lost all 4. And they bring in John Butler as the guy. Anyone was around John Butler was kind of intimidated by him because he's a big dude, and he was kind of just gruffy and he'd yell at you. One of my buddies one time was in an elevator to go downstairs into the Charger locker room, and John Butler walks in and says, "Get out." And then as the guy is getting out, John Butler looks at him and goes, "I never liked you." And like John Butler didn't even know him, but he had to drop, "I never liked you." Like it wasn't embarrassing enough that he couldn't ride in the elevator with him, but he had to drop, "I never liked you." John Butler had the job for 2 years. AJ Smith was his right-hand guy. John Butler dies at like age, I think 56 and 54, whatever it was. John Butler looked like he was 84, but he drops dead, and AJ Smith gets the job. And AJ was kind of like John in that he was all football all the time. He was tough to talk to. People kind of intimidated by him, had the pulled back hair, not like Pat Riley, but he had the stuff in it. And he was the guy that got you basically Antonio Gates, right? He made the draft for Eli Manning, where people were like, "What are you, crazy? Why would you draft Eli Manning when he told he wasn't coming here?" Well, he turned that into Phillip Rivers, turned that into Sean Merriman, turned that into Nate Kading, guys that helped the Chargers win games. And they went on their best run. He won 98 games in 10 years with the Chargers as their GM and did a fantastic job. The one cool thing I will say on a personal note about AJ Smith is AJ wouldn't come on a lot of radio shows, but when I called him to come on, he'd come on the show. I don't know why, but he liked our show and he'd come on. So one day when I'm doing this morning show in San Diego, I never missed a day of work, but I lost my voice. So I missed a day of work, and Herm Edwards came on as a guest, and he was coach of the Chiefs at the time. And the guy who was filling in for me and my radio partner has told him, Herm Edwards, they loved the red Chiefs sweatshirt that he wore on Hard Knocks. And he says, "I'll send you guys some. How many do you want?" And they said, "We only need 2, one for Mike, one for Jeff." They left me out. One day I miss a work day, they don't get me a sweatshirt. And next show we do, we're at the Charger facility, and AJ Smith comes walking down and he goes, "Hey, I got this for you." And he left the other 2 guys out, and he got it only for me. And I'm wearing it right now in honor of AJ. There's my logo.
Nice.
Official Charger gear. AJ walked down right in the middle of the show and he goes, "You guys aren't team guys. Dave's a team guy." And he hooked me up. And I was like, that was cool. Can't say I was ever friends with AJ, but AJ was cool to me at that moment, and he always joined the show, and he was good at his job. And so in the 10 years he was there with the Chargers, 98 wins, pretty impressive.
Okay, a few things. First off, why did they ask for Chiefs gear? They're both Raider fans. So like,
Exactly
where are you
right.
going to wear that? Like, that's the dumbest thing
Exactly.
of all time.
Yeah.
And two, AJ Smith, like I said, winningest Chargers GM of all time. In the 10 years he was with the Chargers, he had the 6th best winning percentage in that span. Very impressive. Some of the non-first round picks that he drafted were Darren Sproles, Vincent Jackson, Sean Phillips, Nick Hardwick, Eric Weddle, Marcus McNeil, and Michael Turner. He's not going to be remembered for those draft picks. He is going to be remembered as the GM that had a dysfunctional relationship with Marty Schottenheimer after he went 14-2 and fired him. To me, that is what AJ Smith is going to be remembered as the Chargers GM. Is it right or is it wrong, Mario, to remember a guy for that situation more than his winning percentage?
I think it's wrong, especially I think if anything, this guy should be remembered for turning around a terrible event where you draft a dynasty QB to find out that he won't play for you, and then you turn that into a dynasty QB for your organization for years to come, and you also get a defensive stud in that situation as well. So you got your offense covered and your defensive covered. Like, that to me should be the story of AJ Smith, is that you're able to do that and set up Chargers for years of success that come along with that. Now, if people want to throw in the Schottenheimer thing, like, fine. You want to throw in their argument with Marty, fine. Like, I get it. It's also drama. It's also controversy, and we love that, especially as years go by. But I really think that AJ should be given just a lot of credit, because I think a lot of GMs in that spot, Dave, messed that up. Like, very little GMs would get that together, would keep that team afloat, and he kept that team afloat and actually steered them in the best direction that they could. Did the Chargers ever get it done? They did not. But you can't argue that he didn't put it together one of the best football teams year in and year out.
You know, the second I found out AJ passed, the first thing I thought of was that AJ and North going at it today. Like, I got unfinished business. Like, you know, they hated each other. And the funny thing was, AJ lived in Del Mar in Southern California. And then when Marty retired, Marty moved to North Carolina. AJ moved to North Carolina too. I was like, he's tracking him down. Like, I got unfinished business. I'm going to follow you 3,000 miles and I got stuff to say. But AJ takes a bad rap on a lot of this stuff. Marty kind of knew what he was doing. I mean, I don't want to say Marty was trying to get fired, but he was kind of trying to get fired. At 14-2, they told Marty, you aren't bringing in your brother as defensive coordinator. And what did he do? He brought in Kurt Schottenheimer, tried to hire him as defense coordinator, completely went against everything that AJ told him, and went against what Dean Spanos told him. Dude, you are not bringing your brother in. And Marty 100% tried to bring in Kurt Schottenheimer as the defensive coordinator. And they kind of forced their hand of saying, all right, you're out. What Marty misplayed his hand on, Marty thought he was going to get asked to take another job in the NFL. Guess what? No one ever came knocking on the door, because Marty was always known as a guy that couldn't get to the Super Bowl. Winningest coach in the history of this league, of winning 200 games, that never played in or never coached in a Super Bowl. So AJ was kind of stuck having to fire him, but Marty knew he was going to get fired by doing that. It wasn't that he went 14-2 and that wasn't good enough. He got fired because he was going to say, I don't care what anyone says above me. I mean, there's a pecking order in every business, and the GM's above the head coach and the owner's above the GM. And he basically told the owner and the GM, your opinion doesn't matter. Kurt and I are going to run this thing. And they said, no, you aren't. Both you guys can hit the bricks. And then they took him out to the desert like the scene in Casino. No, they didn't do that. And that was it.
Great scene.
Yeah. Before we wrap it up, I have a question for Dave. He's not blameless, right? AJ Smith missed on some draft picks, as we know. I'm going to give you 4 guys he drafted in the first round. You tell me which one was the worst, okay?
Okay.
All right. Larry English, Antoine Cason, Buster Davis, Sammy Davis.
Okay. Yeah, Sammy Davis one hurts bad. Buster Davis, I mean, God dang, his name told you he was going to be a bust. I mean, it was right there. But Buster Davis, LSU wide receiver, complete joke. Larry English, nobody looked better in shorts and a T-shirt than Larry English. Like, he's probably still running that high school football camp and getting people to show up. Couldn't play for anything. Antoine Cason, for a second there, looked like it was going to work out. But, man, the Sammy Davis one is brutal. Now, I think if you can go back, this is just off the top of my head, the Chargers, by taking Sammy Davis, missed out on Ed Reed and Troy Polamalu, I think, in the same draft. I think they missed out on both by making that move for Sammy Davis.
Okay. Sammy Davis. Sorry, I gotta
Yeah,
find this, man.
I know, I know I put you right there, but I think the Chargers had chances to get both guys and missed on both of them. They could have had Ed
He was
Reed and
drafted after
Chris Olave.
both. He was drafted after both. But the next
I
pick,
there might have been a trade back. There might have been a trade back.
Oh yeah, they did trade back with the Eagles.
Yeah.
But the next pick after Sammy Davis was also corner, Nnamdi Asma from the Raiders, the All-Pro.
Yeah, one of the best ever.
And Charles Tillman was like 4 picks after that.
Good guy.
Oh, Peanut Tillman.
Yeah,
Works for the
absolutely
government now.
terrible. Oh, man, absolutely terrible. All right, as I said before, it's going to be a short show. Trust me, if you see the comments on here, we're going to try and respond to these. This is one of those, we wanted to get a show out because we got a big show coming up on Wednesday, and we didn't want to do back-to-back shows. We got a big show that we're excited about. I'll tease it. The plan is we're going to have a Charger starter on as a guest, okay? So the good news is you're going to tune in on Wednesday. We're going to promote it. Fingers crossed, everybody. And
fingers crossed on that. Don't take it as it's going to happen for sure. All right, 50-50 on that.
So if for some reason we don't get him on Wednesday because we're trying to line up schedules right now, we aren't going to say horrible things about him. But how many shows does he miss before we do say horrible things about him?
Ooh. I know him, so we're not going to talk bad about him.
Yeah, we're not.
He's a good player. You're going to like him. Chargers are going to like him. I'll give a hint. How about this? I'll give a hint. So if you guys can get it. He has never played a game with the Chargers. It's going to be his first season.
Nice. Could he take all three of us at the same time if we said bad things about him?
With his eyes closed.
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and answer that for you, buddy. It's a yes.
All right. So we're going to sit there and keep our fingers crossed. But the goal is on Wednesday's show, we're going to have a Charger starter on the show, and we're looking forward to find out exactly what it feels like to be a Los Angeles Charger. So, again, apologize for this show being extremely short, but we wanted to get on here early this week to let you know what's happening. I also wanted to comment on AJ Smith. By the way, we'll talk about schedule stuff, all that things that are out. If you haven't seen already, I love this about the NFL. We found out the opening game is going to be the Chiefs hosting the Ravens, and the line's already out. Chiefs are favored by 2.5. They do not miss an opportunity to put a gambling line right on a game as soon as it's announced. So there you go. So leave your comments. We're going to get to all of them on YouTube. And again, everyone who participated today, where people are already guessing who's coming on. Pretty cool. All right. We'll get to all your comments as well. But again, for Mario Heron, Josh Palais, I'm Dave Palais. We'll have a longer show in 2 days. Thank you so much for participating.